Pittsburgh Steelers fans and Steelers Fix listeners everywhere, we all know the importance of special teamers in the NFL, especially kickers and punters. However, we often forget that there are kicker and punter NFL draft prospects. We talk about so many other positions, and very rarely do we take the time to realize, hey, there's some kickers and punters that are worth being drafted. Well, we're going to be talking to one of those guys today. So without further ado, please welcome to the show punter from the University of Michigan and one of the top punter prospects in the 2023 draft class, Mr. Brad Robbins. Brad, thank you so much for coming on today. Let me start off by asking you, when we talk to different draft prospects, they like to give us insight on, how they're training, how they're preparing for the combine, pro day, whatever. How does that change as a punter? Like, what do you have to do to get ready to make sure that you're ready to go for your big off-season events?
Right. So, I pride myself, especially like being at the University of Michigan. I think we did a really good job of priding ourselves on not just being a specialist and being a part of the rest of the team and really being a part of our culture change. So as far as training goes, and we don't do anything typically out of the ordinary like any other players do. We do a lot of like the same stuff as far as like the base lifting and all that kind of stuff. And then we actually add on to that instead of separating ourselves and lifting individually and not doing any of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like we do all the same stuff the other guys do. So for example, once we started a conditioning test, right? Like probably my junior year. And it's essentially like 25 back, 25 back, 25 back, 1-to-2 work rest ratio. You have like X amount of time to get it done, right? And you got like 6 of those reps. And it's all about pacing yourself. And I led our team in that conditioning.
Wow.
I was for like a year and a half. I was the guy who was like the top of the leaderboard. And then so like as far as training goes and stuff like that, well then guys like Blake Corum started to figure out the tricks and how to do it, and then get my butt kicked. But like I can put that on my resume. For a year I led our team in conditioning and I was like the top guy, which was pretty funny.
And I can't help but think that that's got to irritate some of the other team. Like we can't have this punter for us, beating us in all these drills. I mean, that's impressive.
But you earn so much respect for doing that. You know what I mean? Like guys are like, oh, okay, this guy's not just like some slap punter. Like this guy is training really hard and kicking dudes' butts. Like it earns a lot of respect from those guys. So when you're in a team environment and there's something that you see that you don't like, you're able to actually say like, hey guys, come on, like you got to press on the gas. Hey, you got to do this different. Like, hey, let's hurry up. Let's get these reps in so we can finish this period. Right. Like, you have the ability to actually communicate with your guys, just based on, work ethic, which is cool.
And several, the past couple of drafts, we've seen some punters and kickers and some special teamers that, when they're testing at the combine, we see some pretty good athletic numbers, and it just catches people's attention. Like, wait, are there players actually working out right now? Oh, wow. Such and such punter ran like a 4.6 in the 40. Whoa, this is impressive. So, yeah. It's good. I'm looking forward. Now, you have me very excited to watch your pro day combine workouts and seeing, how that goes. I'm excited for that. But you mentioned something about changing the culture. You've beaten Ohio State 2 years in a row.
Right.
Huge for the program. You went out, won the Big Ten again. Obviously in the college football playoff, things didn't go exactly how you or I as a fan wanted to see it go. But you guys did achieve a lot of the goals that you had set out to achieve at the beginning of the year. How did it feel to accomplish so many goals that you all had set preseason? And what do you think the outlook is for Michigan moving forward?
Yeah. I think the hardest part was 2021, right after the 2020 season, just being 2-4. So much uncertainty of just like, a bunch of guys were just on the train for the success and didn't really want to be a part of a culture shift and didn't want to change anything. And a lot of those guys left,
Mm-hmm.
And those were guys maybe you thought were like leaders or were going to like emerge to be like Michigan greats and stuff like that, ended up transferring. And really us as like a core group, like the older guys on the team just kind of sat down and we're like, look, we need to figure out what we can do to get this thing moving forward and moving in the right direction. So guys like Josh Ross, Aiden Hutchinson, Cade, Eall, like myself, Moody, just talking about like, hey, this is like, we need to figure something out and figure it out quick. And really beginning that off season kind of like sparked a new energy, for our program. And obviously having a guy like JJ and guys like Blake Corum come in 2020, that are just like already get it, helped us out a lot. But yeah, the hardest part was starting that culture shift and really trusting in the process, like things were going to change if we put the work in to change it. So seeing it come into fruition in 2021 and beating Ohio State at home was like a step in the right direction. We were like, all right, like it's possible, we can do it. Like we need to, like, once is like almost an accident, right? But twice you're starting to build a habit. So the year after that, we were like, all right, well, let's just repeat the same recipe. Like, like it worked last year. Let's see what we can do again this year. And repeated the same recipe in the off season, developed our core values as a team, kind of kept our same like leadership group, kept our same this, kept our same that, right? Just kept a lot of the stuff the same. And going into Columbus and beating Ohio State is, something in its own, right? So being able to see that come into fruition in Columbus was like even bigger. It's like, oh wow, like we're on the right path. Like this is what needs to happen. The Big Ten championship, it was awesome to get 2 rings before leaving there. That's cool. But as far as Michigan in the future, I just think like the future's so bright. As far as just like the guys that are there, and Blake Corum and Mikey and those guys coming back, and some of the O line like Zach Zinner coming back, that's just going to bode well for the guys, because those guys were, I think, the last group to experience that like 2-4 season, So I don't know. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm a little bit jealous. I don't have any more eligibility. I mean, me and Coach Harbaugh would talk about it all the time. He's like, "Hey, man, if you had unlimited eligibility, you'd be here for like 15 years." I'd be like, "Yeah, man. Yeah." I wish I could. It's a fun time. Really good experience to just play in the big house and have that be your home. And then, all the Big Ten stadiums. We have like the 3 or 4 largest stadiums, in like the world, right?
Yep.
They're in the Big Ten East. So it's like,
Yeah.
So that's a really cool experience, playing in those whiteouts and playing in Columbus and doing all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I grew up about 45 minutes away from the big house. I've only gotten to go to one game, but I will say it was a game against Maryland. I believe it was the one 2019 when there was weather delay. So
Yeah.
I was glad there was a weather delay because we would have been late to the game. We ended up getting there. And then the first play of the game, I believe, was a kickoff return touchdown for Maryland. We're like, oh, great. What is going on?
Yeah.
And then they come back, and then the next drive, Zach Gentry's throwing a pass to DPJ on a trick play. I'm like, okay, this is going to be an interesting game. But I had a blast. Just the overall atmosphere of the big house. You can't match it anywhere.
Yeah, no, there's an influx of like, I think it's like over 1 million people come into Ann Arbor that day. So it's crazy how like it's a zoo. It's unbelievable.
Absolutely. Let's get back to you as a prospect real quick. We talked about, what you're doing to try to prepare for the events. What are NFL coaches and executives, scouts, what did they look for from punters and kickers and what are they looking for when they're going through the evaluating process?
Yeah. As far as the talent goes, like I believe it's been my calling card, ever since I was a kid, and that's consistency and dependability. In high school, I was a 4-sport athlete. Growing up, I played a lot of baseball, and I got in the habit of being our team's closer, right? And that kind of play, like, this has been ingrained in me since I was 8 years old. Being the closer, having the team depend on you. You get 1 inning, you need 3 outs, right? And really having that mentality, like, okay, I'm going to close the door on the other team. They think this is a really good opportunity for them. Like, all right, we're closing the door, right? So having that mentality kind of bleed into my like punting and being consistent and dependable. It's like, I'm used to that. I love the single rep. I love like the ability to flip the field and change the game, right? And some people kind of overlook it, but like I take huge pride in it. It's like a closing pitcher. Some people overlook a really good closing pitcher, but that can win games.
Absolutely. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was just kind of following up on that because, you've been one of the most consistent punters in the nation for now. You've never had a season where you average less than 40 yards per punt. You had averaged over 45 yards in both 2020 and 2021. I just want to ask, what does it take to remain consistent as a punter? We see so many punters in the NFL, they're great one year, the next year, they're struggling with consistency. The Steelers have had some issues with punters, and we're wondering, is it the special teams coordinator? Is it the punter? What is causing, all these effects? In the preseason, they're, punting at all, they're punting 50, 60-yard boots. And then the season comes and, they're averaging, like 35, 36 yards on per punt. Like, what changed? What does it take to remain consistent in your overall game, whether it be distance, hang time, whatever?
Yeah. I mean, I compare it to like golf, like, also just thinking about like weather, like in Pittsburgh even. Well, I punted in the Big Ten, so I've played in the worst of the worst, and there hasn't been anything that I haven't seen, which is something that's going to bode well for me and Bryce, the guy from Michigan State. So just thinking about like yesterday, I was punting in like a 20-mile-an-hour crosswind, right? And like there's some guys I was like around that were just like, man, it's really windy. Like, it's really windy out here today. And I was like, guys, this is like every game in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is like half the games I played this year were like this. So they're like, oh, really? I was like, yeah. And then I'd like turning over ball after ball after ball. And they're like, oh, wow. Like, that's impressive. It's like, yeah, not many people think about that. Like, the weather shifts. Like, you got to remember, like, preseason, it's like 80 degrees. It's like nice. It's not a whole lot of wind. Like, the ball's going to fly a lot better. But like, once you get exposed by the weather, it exposes so much wrong with like technique and like what your flaws. It exposes you and it humbles you, right? So I've definitely had my fair share of games where I've like punted into a wind, and I've been like, yeah, I just can't figure it out, and I've had to go back and like grow my technique and just be like, okay, what do I need to do next time I'm in this situation? It's all about how fast you can move on. Like, I can't speak for other guys in the NFL and if they have their struggles, and it's different for everybody. But I know as soon as I start to first of all, like I pride myself on not mishitting punts in a row. Like if I mishit one, the next one's going to be a turnover, right? So yeah, I can only speak for myself in kind of that regard, but it's just mainly honing in on technique and being fundamentally sound and mentally just being checked in, right?
As we start to close this out, I want to ask you about a couple Michigan prospects, guys that you've rubbed shoulders with during your time at Michigan, who are 2023 NFL draft prospects. One word to describe each of the following players. First one, Jake Moody.
Let me think of a good word, because he's like my best friend. I live with him and stuff, so it's like I gotta think of something good to describe him.
Feel free to tell any stories that you have,
Yeah, I'll think about it. I mean, he averages like one word an hour. Like, he does not talk. Like, he's like, and he's are you on TikTok at all?
No, I'm not.
Okay. There's like this meme, I think it's 21 Savage, just saying like, he's quiet for real though. Like, unless you know him, like, he's funny as hell. Like, this kind of like meme that like 21 Savage is like narrating. It's like that is Moody, like, in a nutshell. Like, he's super quiet, but like once you get to know him, like, he'll just hit you with like these one-liners that that'll just like have you rolling. It's pretty good. So like, I mean, that my one word for him as a prospect, like as a player, would be dependable, obviously, just because he's so like cool, calm, collected. But as a friend, I'd just say like he's one of the funniest dudes I know.
Ronnie Bell.
Spark plug.
DJ Turner.
For DJ, I would say, because me and DJ got after a little bit in the like we would play Super Mario Strikers on the GameCube during camp, like every day in the hotel once we got back from workouts and stuff. And he is like one of the most competitive dudes out there. And he's really funny too. He's a lot like Moody. So it'd be like me, Mikey Sanders still, and then it'd be versus like Moody or no, it'd be me and Moody versus Mikey and DJ on the sticks all the time. But those dudes are just like competitive and funny. Like
We need to get someone to like stream this event, on national television. It sounds like a must-see event.
it's pretty good. Yeah. I mean, the thing about Michigan, like, I mean, I can't speak for another program because I've been for Michigan or been at Michigan for 6 years. But it's like there's no like bad guys.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've seen people and met people from different places that you're like, I don't know, and then like you go to Michigan, it's like everyone's just like a good dude, like genuine,
Mm-hmm.
super nice, funny, like loves playing football. Like the only thing we have in like common, or not the only thing, but like the thing we have in common that like got us there is like we all play football. Like that's it.
Yeah. Let's go to Mozzie Smith.
Mozzie, he hold on, let me find a word for him because I have one. One sec.
We've got, I mean, obviously things that come to mind with him, for me at least, are athletic, freak. Those are kind of those are the just things that everyone associates with them. But I want to, from an actual player perspective, I'm curious to see what you're going to come up with here.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say like, okay, I just looked up synonyms for scary. Like, I didn't want to use the word scary, but synonyms. That guy is like, but also like he writes poetry. He's like he has like a really good like
Balance.
mix. Yeah, but on his like, if you just first meet him, like this dude's a freak and just like looks huge, and he's like really intimidating, like kind of scary. Then like I talked to his mom at one of our special teams periods were over. His mom was at practice, and I picked her brain for a bit. And he has a family full of like activists, basically, and people who write, people who are just like it's awesome. And I got to learn kind of about like the other side of Mozzie, and I was like, this guy, are you talking about the same guy? Like, are you talking about the dude who just folds people in half on the field? Like, no, he's pretty good. Yeah, once you get to know him, he's like, I'd say balanced is probably the best word.
Let's go to a couple offensive linemen real quick. Ryan Hayes.
Yeah. He's another guy that's dependable. And then, just based on the nature of the position, like all of our offensive linemen are freaking smart. And like they all play like war zone together. They all like stick together. They all have like that constant communication all the time, and always hold each other accountable. I would pick him as a quiet leader. I'd say leader.
And then Oluwatimi.
Diamond in the rough, man. The fact that I told him this, like I was one of the first guys he met, and I was like, after I saw him the first game or like the first couple practices, it's like I cannot believe we got you here. Like how did you get here? Like this guy, it's like a starting center all the way, like super smart, bright, graduated from Virginia, easily moldable. He was voted as like an alternate captain his first year. Like he fit in right away. It's crazy to think like if he would have just started at Michigan his career, how different it would be. I feel like he would be maybe a top like first round guy. Mm-hmm. But he had 1 year at Michigan, built on the foundation of like at Virginia, and it's like, he's still going to be up there in the draft. Yeah. He's reliable. He's witty. He's smart. He's everything you want. He's like I said, just like we just happened to find him, in the transfer portal and got him, which was unbelievable. So I would say for sure, like a diamond in the rough kind of guy.
And then the last question, it's draft day. Whenever the Steelers are going through their punter evaluations, looking at this guy named Brad Robbins from Michigan, they're like, yeah, we did our homework on him. We really like him. We want to bring in some competition. And Mike Tomlin, Omar Khan gives you a call and says, hey, we're going to make you a Pittsburgh Steeler. What's going through your mind?
Yeah, I haven't even put myself in that situation yet. It's crazy. just thinking one thing at a time, because the next thing's the combine. But I don't know. The thing that's going through my mind first is how quickly I can get out there, and just like be a part of that organization. If I end up as a Steeler, I already know guys there, right? Michigan, like Gentry and all those guys. But I just want to soak in as much as I can from those guys and be a part of that culture as quickly as I can. Just to kind of build those relationships with those guys and, have another successful year. That'd be crazy. I haven't even thought about if I'm going to get a call or not yet, putting myself in those shoes, but, that would be pretty surreal because I grew up, like, not many people know that, but I grew up like a Steelers fan.
Really?
Yeah. I'm from Columbus, and like my brother liked the Browns and all that kind of stuff. But I always rivaled my brother. Like my brother's Ohio State fan. I went to Michigan and played at Michigan. Like he likes the Browns. I was like, yeah, I like the Steelers.
Nothing better than a good sibling rivalry.
Yeah,
So.
right. So
We'll follow him on. We'll follow him on Twitter at _BR91. Brad, thank you so much. It's been fun. I had a blast on this one. Thanks for joining us today on the Steelers Fix. Best wishes in the NFL.
yeah, thank you. Appreciate you having me on.